The Warpriest is the first encounter in King's Fall. It's been quite a while since we've seen some new 6-man PvE content. Are you ready to prove your worth? The Warpriest encounter is split into two parts: Prove Your Worth and then the Warpriest himself. The Prove Your Worth encounter is the first part, where you must charge the plate in the middle of the arena with Deathsinger's power. Group composition does not really matter for the first part of the encounter, any classes are fine. However, Sunbreaker Titans, Gunslinger, and Nightstalker Hunters excel for shutting down key targets that we will talk about later. Any primary weapon will work pretty well, but sniper rifles work best in the special slot. You should start by splitting your fire team into two groups of 3, as you'll all be split from each other for most of the encounter. There are 2 extra rooms, one on each side. Each of those rooms has an Annihilator Totem, which functions exactly the same way as it did in Crota's End. For those who don't know, an Annihilator Totem is an area where there must be someone standing within said area, otherwise the totem will slowly explode. The totems will activate once the encounter starts, which is triggered by either attacking the enemies by the doorway or picking up the orb. Each side has one orb which turns into an aura. The left side orb turns into Brand of the Unraveler, and the right side orb turns into Brand of the Weaver. While the names are different, both function the same way. You should start the fight by having your entire team throwing their grenades at the enemies by the doorway, firing a few shots, and then running to their totems immediately afterwards. This makes the lives of the first people to return back to this room significantly easier. When a player picks up a Brand aura, they will get it for 30 seconds. The reason these auras are important is because once you enter the rooms on the side, you will take damage over time, which will eventually kill you. If you are inside the Brand aura, you will not take that damage. After the 30 seconds expires, the player with the brand will transfer it to a new player automatically, but only if there are other players within that aura. If there are no players within the aura, then the aura will disappear and the orb will reset back to its original platform in the main room. If this happens, it means something has gone wrong and you should expect to have to resolve a problem. This should not normally happen at all during the encounter. If there is a player within the aura after the brand timer expires, the brand will transfer to that player. If there are multiple players, then it will transfer to one of them. There is a small delay when transferring the brand, so be sure not to leave the aura until the brand is fully on a new target. While players are in the side rooms, they'll have to deal with Hive Acolytes, a Boomer Knight, and any enemies that come from the center room, typically Thrall, although melee knights are added into the mix later in the encounter. This is not particularly difficult to deal with, as they are just regular enemies. A sniper for the Boomer Knight, which spawns on the upper platform once about every 30 seconds, is more than enough, although it can be brought down easily by focus fire. Once the brand is transferred, the player who previously had the brand will be imbued with Deathsinger's power times 10. This power must be put into the plate in the center of the room. That player should run to the center room after gaining Deathsinger's power and stand on the plate until all of their charges have been removed. You will not be able to receive the brand if you have any remnants of Deathsinger's power, so be sure it is all gone. While on the plate, you'll have to deal with a general set of Hive Enemies, which you should just kill. The 2 upper platforms in the center room spawn wizards. These wizards are just normal wizards, but tend to be a high priority target. Feel free to use Hammer of Soul, Golden Gun, or Shadow Shot to quickly dispose of them. Once a player gets rid of their Deathsinger's power, they should head back to their respective Annihilator Totem so that the next person can come dispose of their Deathsinger's power. This process repeats itself until enough power has been put into the plate. You can track your progress by looking at the frame of the doorway in the center room with the plate. The glyphs on the door frame will steadily light up as you put power into them. Here's a quick run through of the encounter. Players 1, 2, and 3 go left, and players 4, 5, and 6 go right. Players 1 and 4 grab their brands. After 30 seconds, players 1 and 4 transfer their brands to players 2 and 5. Players 1 and 4 run to the center room and dispose of their Deathsinger's power. Once they are done, or once player 2 and 5 transfer their brand, players 1 and 4 head back to their totems to meet with players 3 and 6, while 2 and 5 go to the middle room to dispose of their Deathsinger's power. Once they are done, or once players 3 and 6 transfer their brands, players 2 and 5 head back to their totems to meet with players 1 and 4, while 3 and 6 go to the middle room to dispose of their Death Singer's power. This process repeats itself until you have proven your worth to the Warpriest. A chest will spawn in the middle of the room which contains shards and the possibility of other loot like the Ghost Shell or Fusion Rifle. Once you have proven your worth, the Warpriest will invite you into the next room to fight him. The Warpriest's room is divided into 3 sections: upper left, lower middle, and middle right. Each section has its own plate, which become important later in the fight. You should split your group into 3 teams of 2 for this encounter, 1 group per plate. To activate the fight, simply stand on all 3 plates at the same time. As for group and weapon composition, a Defender Titan with Weapons of Light works wonders for this fight, although more than one is not really necessary, so all other Titans should go Sunbreaker with a Sunspot build, as the boss does not move very often. Night Stalker Hunters should utilize Black Hole for increased durations on shadow shots on the boss. Warlocks can spec however they want. Snipers once again will be dominant for this boss, as staggering and stunning the boss is very important. The Warpriest is immune to all damage when first starting the encounter. Once you start the encounter, you'll have Hive Enemies spawning out of all doorways. These should simply be killed off as soon as possible. Note that special acolytes called Adepts will spawn. When killed, they emit a small AoE around themselves, which enrages any acolytes around them, giving them an ogre-like laser beam, which is very dangerous. You should kill acolytes before killing adepts, however, any infected acolytes still have the same health and defense as a normal acolyte. Once major knights start spawning, you should get ready for the damage phase of the encounter. After all 3 major knights are dead, the Warpriest will start the glyph sequence. This is where you must step on the plates in the correct order so you can damage the boss. The order that you must step on the plates is different every time, but the order is always revealed on the back of the giant pillars. Therefore, after you kill the major knights, one player should head to the back of the room so that they can see what order the plates need to be activated in. Our callouts are simply left, middle, and right. If someone steps on a plate in the wrong order or you take too long to activate the plates will glow red and you'll have to do it again. Messing up too many times means you will fail the sequence and you will wipe. When done in the correct order, the person that steps on the final plate in the sequence will receive a debuff and aura called Brand of the Initiate. Players within this aura, which is a bright red dome, will be able to freely damage the Warpriest, so players need to gather in this aura to quickly maximize boss damage. Supers, specials, and heavies should be used at this time to dump as much damage into the boss as possible. It is the job of the Initiate, aka the person with the aura, to keep the aura active as long as possible. The Brand debuff comes with 5 charges and a 10-second timer. Whenever you kill an enemy in the area, you will lose 1 stack of the debuff and the timer will refresh to 10 seconds. It is the job of the Initiate to kill enemies in the area to refresh the timer. You need to wait long enough for the timer to tick down a bit, but not too long as to not risk not killing an enemy in time. If you have the Brand and do not kill an enemy before the timer ends, you will die instantly and the Brand of the Initiate aura will transfer to someone else with 1 less stack on it. This is a somewhat high pressure situation to be in. It is also very important that the DPS keep the boss permanently stunned, as everyone will be taking damage from the adds in the area since the Initiate can't kill them immediately. If the boss is able to shoot, it results in very heavy damage taken by your fire team. After the final stack is removed, the aura will disappear and the Warpriest will call for his Oculus. The Oculus is essentially a giant darkness ball in the arena that kills everything. In order to not get killed by it, you must stand in the shadows of one of the 3 pillars to block line of sight between you and the Oculus. Once a pillar is struck by the Oculus, it will disappear for the rest of the encounter, so you'll need to keep moving to different pillars in order to survive the Oculus. As for finding out the order that you need to step on the plates, instead of that totem lighting up on the back, it will have a bright vertical light glow when it is time to press that plate. After the Oculus, this process repeats itself until the Warpriest is defeated or you wipe. The second wave of enemies is still the same, except a few more enemies spawn than normal. For example, instead of 1 wizard spawning, 2 will spawn. However, once the boss reaches a certain health threshold, about 25%, Taken enemies will now start spawning instead of Hive. The major knight that you need to kill will now spawn next to your plate as opposed to a doorway, and will no longer be melee based, so be on the lookout for that. It is very possible to kill the Warpriest in as little as 2 damage phases, leaving 2 pillars still intact. Gathering in the middle is going to end up being the easiest, so if you know your team can finish the boss before the Oculus will occur, grouping up in the middle is not a terrible idea. Overall, this fight is about high damage, quick grouping, and cool heads. Having the brand of the Initiate is a stressful situation to be in, so give yourself some time to learn what you will and will not be able to get away with. But that is your Warpriest strategy guide. After the Warpriest, you'll be fighting Golgoroth, another very intense, damage-heavy encounter. I'll see you there.